Today I want to talk about the weather on the Great American Coastal Excursion, or I guess we can call it the potential weather, or what we might expect. We can only speculate, but we can make some educated guesses. I think our biggest obstacle, if you want to call it that, will be the heat. We want to avoid heat stroke. We don't want to die. In order to do that, we need to stay hydrated. That's our number one goal, is to drink lots of water, lots of fluids, Gatorade, whatever needs to be done to stay hydrated. And to bring it a step further, I'm actually bringing a thermometer with me just to keep an eye on my body. And if my temperature gets too high, I know to absolutely stop. So let's take a look at the map. I think different parts of the country, this is just me guessing and speculating what we might expect in certain areas of the country. So let's start in Syracuse. This first little leg from Syracuse to Buffalo, we should be fine. I think it's the Empire State Trail. So typically trails are shaded. I think we're going to be okay. Then let's say from Buffalo over here to kind of like Toledo, but we're not going in Toledo. We're going to be traveling along the lake, but you can't see the lake. From what I remember, we did this trip on the first adventure, and you can't necessarily see the lake. It's like set back a little bit. It's not like there's beaches leading to Lake Erie. And if I remember correctly, there's a lot of vineyards. And when there's vineyards, there's no shade. So that could very well be hot, but if we do get a breeze off the lake, we'll see. That's kind of like an unknown, but we'll see. And then we go from, let's say, that Toledo area over here to Benton Harbor, Michigan, along the border here. I think that's potentially very hot, so we'll just keep an eye on things. It's going to be Amish territory, so that's always fun. And Notre Dame's in there somewhere, right? We're going to stop and say hello to Notre Dame. And then once we get to the coast of Lake Michigan and make our way around, again, we went through Michigan on the first adventure, but not that part. We went through the middle. And there was a lot of public beaches, so I'm expecting public beaches. I'm expecting the breeze off the lake. And so when I say public beaches, that means I can personally just jump in and cool off if need be. So we'll make our way up around the lake, come back down to Chicago here. Once we get to Chicago, this little stretch right here through Indiana, I do think that could be one of the hottest parts of the trip. It's landlocked, it's agriculture, so it's all farms, there's no trees, and there may not be a breeze. So we'll see. We'll just deal with it as we go and make sure we got our water. And not only have water, but we have to make sure there's water where I'm going. So when I get there, I can get water. And then once we hit over here near Columbus, I don't know if we're actually going through Columbus. We're going to play that by ear because we gotta get to a blood drive here in London, Ohio. But this middle of the Z for the zigzag, that's all trail. That's the Erie to Ohio trail, and that part I think is called the Miami Trail. That is beautiful. There's water fountains, there's bathrooms, there's gazebos, there's benches, there's picnic tables, there's anything you need as far as a bike concerned. And I think we're going to be on that for about 60 miles. That's going to be a nice little stretch. And then once we get down here to excuse me, Cincinnati and bank east towards the coast, we're going to be going. Kentucky's probably going to be hot, from what I remember. And then I don't really know what to expect here between like West Virginia and Virginia, because we're going to be going through the Blue Ridge Mountains again, which are part of the Appalachian Mountains, or parts of them. So our elevation is going to be up around 4,000 feet, so maybe it'll be cool up there. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. But once we hit the East Coast over here at Virginia Beach, I'm expecting, I can only guess, that it's all going to be kind of consistent weather. It's going to be hot, but there's going to be water right there. So again, whether we get that breeze off the ocean and there's public beaches, I from my experience, cooling off, the easiest way to cool off is just to either go swimming or even go into a sprinkler. And when I say sprinkler, I mean the irrigation sprinklers. They work really well just to cool your body down. And if you haven't noticed, I'm pretty heavy right now, which I own up to it. I'm a glutton for food and drink, so I'll lose it on the trip, just like last time, but it might be a little bit painful. So once we get over here to Mississippi, Louisiana, Again, we're going to be inland a little bit. So it's the deep south. So when you think deep south in the summer or late summer, you think steamy. It might be really hot down there. We'll see what happens. But again, we'll deal with it. But then once we get over to, I'm thinking it might be fall I haven't done all the homework, but Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, all those cities, it might be cooler because it's in the fall, or we might get a steam bath. We'll see what happens because we're inland. But again, I don't know. I'm just talking out loud here, and that's one of the best parts of this trip is not knowing and finding out after the fact and looking back. And then we got the border. This is all unknown. I really don't know what to expect. Again, we're in the mountains. Like, we're in the Rockies. I think it's still the Rockies down here in the Continental Divide. But the good option we have down there is we can hop on the interstate at any given point. It might not be easy to get to. We might have to backtrack a little bit. But Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, you can ride a bicycle on the interstate. And what I like about the interstates is they're predictable. I've said this a million times. They're predictable. You have the shoulder. I know people think they're inherently dangerous. They're only as dangerous as you make them. I believe they're safe. But my point was, there's usually truck stops in towns that you can get off and actually know that you're going to have water and amenities, if you will. Then once we get to San Diego, this is where it gets a little weird because it's going to be December. So now we flip it over, and I kind of got to think about staying warm. And that's why we're going to take a train, or at least the idea is to take a train from San Diego up to Vancouver and then pedal back down. And I know I said jokingly, if it gets cold, I'm going home. But realistically, knowing me, I'll just tough it out. But that train ride and also this ferry ride from Key West to Fort Myers, those two things are what takes away from this being a purist trip. The first two trips were purist trips where both wheels of the bike had to be on the ground at all times. We accepted no help from anybody or anything moving forward. But this trip is more lighthearted, relaxed, and fun. So we're going to take that ferry and then we'll take the train. And the weather, one more thing, the hurricane. It's going to be hurricane season. So, I mean, obviously I'm going to stay safe. But at heart, I'm kind of a storm chaser. So, if there's going to be a hurricane, I kind of want to be there for it. So, we'll see. But again, safety first, obviously. And I will be donating blood, I mentioned, at least 14 times. I have 4 scheduled for myself already. We have 2 blood drives set up. And when I donate blood, that the day of and I pedal afterwards, especially in the heat, I got to keep an eye on that because I do get affected by that. I don't recommend anybody do that. It's just me. Everybody's different. And I think that's it as far as my take on the heat. I did put up some drone footage earlier just to give you an idea of some stuff we might be able to see in different angles and things like that. So that's my take on the weather. If you have any ideas or thoughts, especially down in Florida, I guess, because we'll be on the Florida coast a long time. That's it. Talk to you next time.